Hello, friends. Hello, and happy glorious moment to you wherever you are. Welcome to this personal power life coaching segment for self-empowerment, well-being, and personal peace, personal satisfaction. In other words, your satisfaction. And today's topic, as I highlighted in the description, is about embarrassment and feelings of shame. And specifically, the inspired thought came from eating and food, because today at my computer, the email automatically typed up the sentence, "I like to eat," as a suggested title for an email. And when I saw that subject at first glance, I was astonished because it was the subject of the email itself had nothing to do with anything involving food or eating or that kind of a thing. It was like more financial. And so when I saw, but what was interesting and striking in that case for me was my reaction, sort of this subtle astonishment, surprise, but also maybe call it unease or displeasure at that phrase. It sort of left me conflicted, to be honest. And I'm being very candid because why not, right? We are all one and there is no judgment except the judgment that I impose on myself and whatever judgments I allow into my reality from the outside, which is still only my permission, so to speak. So when I reflected on that, I then thought, why would I feel embarrassed, or why would I feel ashamed, or even going one step back behind that level, is it true? I like to eat. I felt embarrassed at that moment in my own head. And I don't know if you've ever had that feeling or sensation or thought, right? It was a thought. And so I'm sharing this with us because there's no reason to feel ashamed. There's no reason to feel embarrassed about something that's so basic and human and so simple and sort of primordial to our existence on this planet, is the need to nourish ourselves. And perhaps for me, the reason why it is cloaked in this kind of preconception is because from an early age in my life, in my childhood, I was made to feel like I ate too much and like I was inadequate, inappropriate, and excessive, out of control because of my love for food, or I just enjoy it. And for years I had rejected that or ignored it or squashed it down somewhere in my psyche. But the more I come to peace with life, with myself, with eating itself, I realize that we need to evolve. I need to evolve beyond this, and that today is not the same as who you were years ago or decades ago. But the reason that this is a topic for this video is intended and designed in order to bring it into a light and empowerment. And so I would like to invite us and encourage you moving forward in your life to see those moments of perceived weakness or failure or self-judgment, embarrassment, shame, feeling ashamed that you like something. Like, if I like to eat, I should not, it's not necessary to feel ashamed about it. Perhaps I'm not the only one, and that's what I hear from other people. People may like to eat, and some may like to eat more than others. And the key here is to use our experiences of perceived failure or weakness or dissatisfaction with ourselves as a learning, as a kernel of truth, as a golden nugget to further our evolution in this life journey and this life experience, and to become an even brighter light in your life so that you can have more peace, allow yourself to be more expansive, more calm and centered, and So the main thing starting out is, if you feel that you ever have those kinds of emotions of shame or embarrassment, then the first thing that may help is at least to acknowledge that it's a thought. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It just means that it's a thought that is causing an emotion. And it could be super fast. It could be at speed of, like light speed, the way that this happens. And if things have been sort of programmed into your psyche for decades or years, or even just instantaneously through trauma, then the key is to realize that we may have sudden emotional reactions to things based on our automatic autopilot responses, because that's what you've been programming yourself, what you've been sort of on autopilot to react with. That's what your neural pathways are designed to flow most efficiently. Kind of like the wheels that have the most lubrication are the ones that run the fastest and run the easiest. So whatever you program into yourself more continuously, more easily, that will come naturally. So this is true for good and for not so good feeling things. So first of all, you can take a step back and acknowledge that, okay, self, this is a thought. Okay, what's going on? And why am I, this is a thought. Okay, first of all, and that is awareness. Okay, and this brings you back into your center, into a greater place of self-awareness and acknowledgement and self-control. And self-control is a helpful quality to the extent that you can use it in those situations that it requires you to take a step back from paranoia, from making assumptions based on no evidence, and making even value judgments that are based on myths and your own personal biases, and just programming. Because if you question these things deep down, there's really no reason to feel that way, but you do. So it's not about whether it's valid or not. We're talking about how can we transcend, even embrace it, make peace with it, and then evolve beyond it. So being aware is number one, being aware of what's going on inside of you emotionally and mentally, and then not making it good or bad, not placing judgment on it. Because the moment that we label something as positive or negative, or make just a judgment as good or bad, we then automatically categorize it, and then we feel that compulsion, that instinctual compulsion to align ourselves on the side of the good, right? Because naturally you want that which is supposed to be desirable or preferable or authorized by whatever you've given authorization to. So the key is to be aware, take a step back, and notice the thought that it's all about, the thought that is defining this, the concept from which it is stemming. And then once you have that greater place of awareness, not labeling it as good or bad, not placing a value judgment on it, because the moment that we do, we attach to that. We attach to that circumstance, we attach and fixate part of our identity onto an aspect of that circumstance. So whatever it is, good or bad, we align with it accordingly. It means that it's more deeply connected with us. But if we want to move beyond it and transcend, then we need to step into a new space and become a new person, so to speak. Think differently. We just have to think and feel differently. So no labeling, good or bad, just letting it be, knowing that it's only words on paper, or it's only a thought in nothingness, in the sky. And then making peace with it and accepting that that is there, and it may or may not be true, and there's nothing wrong with you as a person, and this doesn't define you as a person, but rather it is simply a limiting belief, something that you've accepted as a factor and as a sort of rule. All right, so These are simple tips, 3 simple basic elements that can help us to appreciate those moments of making judgments on ourselves. And they can seem quite superficial, but it extends for so many aspects of life, not just about food and eating, because it's not a big deal. It's only a big deal if you make it one, because if it's something is normal and natural for you or within the community you live in or whatever you accept as your cultural medium, then it's normal and it's not extraordinary. When you step out of that environment, then you may understand that it's not normal in another setting. So about taking a wider perspective, that helps. Understanding that you may be exaggerating things in your imagination, but it's not necessarily so. Finding more peace in yourself because of that space that you're giving yourself. And having a talk with you, checking in with your inner dialogue. What is your self-talk? What are the words you're saying to yourself? And can you take a step back and a leap of faith and not label it as good or bad and not letting that make you a good or bad person? Certainly, we may have our ideals, our goals, our visions of what we think is desirable or the best according to XYZ model that you've accepted for yourself. But sometimes these templates, the things that we think we want, don't necessarily bring us happiness. They're difficult in the process, or they feel difficult, or once you do have them, it may feel not as satisfying as you thought. So finally, to close off, I invite us to just be in greater peace in those moments of discomfort, and even when you are labeling yourself or labeling a situation, and to just make it a practice of being present, being aware, or as Eckhart Tolle calls it, stepping into the stillness, into presence, and not labeling or judging, but letting things be as they are and taking a deep breath. I mean, the breath really helps because I used to think it was silly, but now, yes, as a yoga teacher, the breath is important. In meditation, the breath is really critical and basic. The breath is the basis of your life because you need breath in order to live. You don't necessarily need food or water. You can go for many days, but you can't go for as long without air, oxygen. So just realign with the fact that you have a greater higher self, a greater source that is you in your heart. And while it's not always blabbering loudly, it's always there, and it won't be the loudest, most rambunctious voice because there are a lot of external influences in our environments. But the more we are aware that we know that it's there, that we tell ourselves, I know that you're there, I know that you're helping, I know that you can guide me. Please lead me and illuminate my vision, illuminate my thinking, clarify my thoughts. Please bring peace of mind to me and harmony to my body or to my finances or my romantic life or whatever it is. And connecting with that space of awareness. So finally, to recap, first of all, in feeling shame or embarrassment, it may take a long time for this to be overcome or not, depending on the subject and how prominent it's been for you in your life. But the first key is to know that it's only a thought and ask yourself if it's true, yes or no. Then step into awareness and become aware of it. Know that it is not true necessarily. Becoming aware of what is happening in your own head, and then not labeling it as good or bad. Not labeling it as good or bad, and finally making peace making peace with what you think is so, such as in my case or in someone's case, if they think they like eating too much, then accepting, well, maybe we do. And maybe I'm not the only one. And maybe it's not as bad as I think it is because of, if you look at it, how can you really know? Relative to anything else, right? What are you comparing to? So maybe you like shopping too much. Compared to what, right? So everything is relative, and it's only defined as something good or bad or neutral based on what you're comparing it to. So what or who are you comparing yourself to? That is the key. That is the question. What are you comparing yourself to? Because it's when we have those comparisons that are when you compare, you simply invite yourself for more discontent and dissatisfaction, because there's always going to be something that can be improved and changed, something that will be different, someone or something that will have it better. And again, even in that, it will depend on your perspective, how you're viewing it, from which position, right? And when you look back on things, hindsight is 20/20. So a lot of things to bear in mind, but at the same time, very basic and simply, just step into awareness. And sometimes we do have these thoughts, and that's what life is. It's just a flurry of thoughts. And it's the quality of those thoughts that really is shaping and molding our perceived reality. So that's it for now. Thank you for joining. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and let's go and have some dinner now. And I bid you a peaceful and joyful continuation. Many blessings. You are always blessed, and I shall see you very soon. Thank you again from Jennifer at Personal Power Life Coaching. Bye for now. Namaste.